All right, welcome to the vExpert Daily on the last day of the show.
Final edition.
The final edition, and I was actually asked to moderate this one for some unknown reason. I think Letchen was tired of talking with me. But for those of you who don't know, I'm James Bowling, or vCentral on Twitter. I'll go ahead and let the rest of the guys introduce themselves, starting with this guy with the luscious locks.
Jason Langer. Twitter is @JSlanger. Work as a solutions architect at
Into the microphone.
Denali Advanced Integrations.
Ahmad Yunus. I'm a senior technical marketing engineer for Tintri. Find me on Twitter, Ahmad_Yunus.
Tim Jabut. I'm a soon-to-be consulting architect with VMware in the Global Center of Excellence, and
Which is his way of saying I'm currently unemployed.
till Tuesday. VDB takeover.
And I'm Jim Millard. I work for One Neck IT Solutions. I'm a pre-post guy and live in the Midwest, and I wave at all you people flying over.
What? I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
That's called
Damien comes
professional
walking
moderation.
up and like just totally threw everything off the rails there. It just
That's how
bye-bye.
you take over a party.
Go ahead and introduce yourself, sir.
Hi, my name is Damian Carlson. I'm 6 Foot Dad on Twitter. You may know me from such TV shows as Not Safe for Work 1 and Not Safe for Work 2, The Not Safening.
Don't forget Terrence and Phillip.
Yeah, hey, buddy. So I'm also VDB 007, and I will do my best to not swear for the next foreseeable future while we're on camera.
Or at least turn your mic off if you're gonna.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
No promises.
that's amazing.
You guys can't see what's happening behind my hand.
All right, so I guess let's kind of get started off. Let's talk about today's session, the general session today.
Why are you looking at me when you know I said I didn't see it?
That's exactly why I'm looking at you, because I want to point you out that everybody else was watching but you, and now you wanted to sit on a panel.
I was in the steam room. I have a cold.
So I'm going to jump in. I've been to, I guess
It
this will
just
be
got
my
serious.
eighth. This will be my eighth VMworld, and those earlier ones, they didn't have this third day of keynotes that had innovation stuff. And when they added it, it became this. We almost got some polarization about people watching the keynote. It's like, what has this got to do with virtualization? And other people going, holy crap, can't we get more of this? This is awesome stuff. Well, all of the stuff today had to do with the most complex computer in the world. And we're all technologists. We work with computers. What's wrong with dealing with the most complex computer there is?
Can we ship it in containers?
We already do, but they suck. They're very fragile.
Yes, it's called a skull.
Oh man, in configuration management, the universe kind of fell off on that one. It's like, oh, we'll make a bowling, won't we? Oh, thanks, universe. So to your point,
No. Okay.
to your point, Jim, I do have a question. You said that people were like questioning why we were talking about emerging technologies and not necessarily virtualization. Is this their first show ever? Because every single VMworld I've been to, way back in like the Steve Harrod days, they did this forward-thinking stuff later in the week, and it was usually better than what they were announcing, really. You know?
Yeah, but today's forward thinking becomes tomorrow's, like yesterday's news, right? I mean, you gotta think about an idea and
I don't have
cultivate
enough
it.
coffee for that.
But I mean, seriously, I mean, you have to have an idea, foster the idea, bring it to fruition, and then sooner or later that just becomes history.
Yeah. Mr. Ahmad Yunus. Yes, sir. What are your thoughts on today's session?
So I actually kind of enjoyed the whole idea of using the human brain to actually explore other options like the nerves and stuff like that. And it's pretty cool to see how our body works, and we can take that to the next level and cure things like, you know, people being deaf and giving them, you know, a new vision of the world, right? Because these folks haven't had the opportunity to hear, you know, maybe a bird or what a car sounds like or anything like that, right? So I think that's pretty cool.
Can you imagine that? Seriously, like the first time ever, if you've never heard in your life how terrifying some of those sounds could be.
Or just listening to us talk on the stage.
Yeah. Have you guys seen the videos of like the babies hearing? Seriously?
Not just babies,
The
but
babies hearing
adults
their parents
and
makes like I'm kind of like I may cry and I don't even care. Like the show, it's so beautiful, man. It's amazing. He's done. He's like, if people are crying, I already did that.
Damien, I'd say.
So the one thing I want to jump on that, and now we're completely away from the vExpert Daily part of it, but you said cure deafness. And one of the pieces he talked about was that sensorum, whatever the German word was for that you're missing parts of it. And he also said that, well, those women that had that fourth color capability, well, and bowling apparently has it too.
See, and I said I was not going to be the bad one today. And we've got
But he also pointed out
Mr.
that
Velvet Costanza over here, or Kramer, or whatever it is.
Hold on. Will you
the
allow,
coffee table
Will
book.
you allow Jim to finish this out,
I'm
please?
sorry.
But the
Thank you.
concept that there's a part of some person's sensorum that's more expanded than we have, does that mean we're broken because we don't have it? Would adding that capability cure a lack, or would it just be enhancing? So the people that are deaf from birth, they're not cured if they're given a cochlear implant and suddenly can hear again.
They're upgraded.
They're upgraded. That because he asked about the people that are blind from birth, do they have this black hole? Well, your brain fills in a lot of linkages, and you may actually sense light in that part of your brain, even though.
Yeah, have you seen Daredevil?
I mean,
I've seen both the good and the bad.
I shouldn't say upgraded. That's
And
kind
the
of a
ugly.
bad, that's a bad choice of words. More like enhancement.
Expanded.
Or yeah, like expanded yeah, that's perfect actually. But do y'all want to keep talking about that, or can we get into kind of talking about the week in general?
I thought you were the line leader.
I am.
I mean, because I can do
he's trying to
crisscross
rein us in.
applesauce if you're gonna like.
Wait, I
I
only
need
have
security. Escort this man off this stage.
Damien, wait, one last thing. Does anybody want to address the wonder that is satire of Silicon Valley? The whole cochlear implant and everything. Is it not like the whole big head Hooli last episode?
Oh yeah. Great. This could be sometime in our lifetime. We've got the potato gun though.
Absolutely. But I got to tell you, if we tried to put a Mr. Potato Head, yeah.
Mr. Moderator.
Awesome.
Get us back
awesome.
on track, sir.
That's great. I'm
Yes.
trying to.
We are
but
off the
but
rails.
everybody is bigger than me, so it's kind of hard to do that. Anyway, so
My 10-year-old is bigger than you.
I'm going to go ahead and just say Damian Carlson's next words are redacted.
So let's talk a little bit about the conference as a whole. What this week has left the biggest impression on you this week? I mean,
So
is it the announcement?
This is a flip side piece to it. It's Docker and containers had a presence here that we barely got whispered on. The whole DevOps movement that we're seeing, we're getting investment by VMware in all of it. And some of the pieces that they're planning on building directly into the kernel for ESXi is really impressive. But the flip side to that is we have a real disparity between the people that care about that, and I don't mean that in a disparaging way. We've got the coder types, and we've got the admin types, and I don't know about the people watching this, but I work with a lot of small businesses that if you went to any of those container sessions, the first thing that they start talking about is when you recode your apps to take advantage of this, and I'm sitting back
Which
going,
implies you have coders.
well, not just coders, but you're using applications that you have any control over in any way, shape, or form, even if you have no coders, but you have a great relationship with the organization doing your coding. All right, folks, I want exchanging containers. Work on that, Microsoft.
On NFS. Rock and roll.
So the reality is...
On-prem email should be dead. It's 2015.
Okay, so fine. I work for a service provider. You're going to buy your on-prem or your non-on-prem email from who? Somebody
Non-prem.
run it on their premises.
Non-prem. Done.
Non-prem, baby.
VDB trademark.
100%.
So
This is what happens when I get sleep.
we've got a shift, and yes, the the container, the microservice, these are awesome concepts. And for the people that have that kind of control, more power to them. But the rest of us that are still living with monolithic applications and we don't have any control over the way they're built, the way they're going to be built, it's so much.
It's a question of how relevant it is.
Never
to
again,
to the
please.
majority of the population. That's what I see it.
Jim,
I'm taking his microphone because he's the only person who has any like intelligent conversation coming out of their mouth right now. So y'all continue.
Wait,
wow.
go with the relevance. Because I was just going to say, is it a true statement
That was a
as
VDB
far as
move, sorry.
relevance, or is it a true statement of the direction that VMware is hoping to go? So I would argue that most of the DevOps culture, containers, microservice architecture, all of this really caters to VMware's edge cases, the 10% that the enterprise customers that they themselves will tell you that they want to get to and make that the majority of their market. Problem is when you got millions of small customers, how do you fill in those gaps? How do you make it easy enough for the small customer to even be able to go and architect a bunch of COTS applications that are just could be garbage, but they fit the bill and they're making tons of money off of them?
But why do you need to?
Right.
Right, like I love all the super cool things that's coming along with automation, orchestration, containerization. I feel dirty. I'm about ready to say these words. Software defined networking. Oh man, I said I wasn't going to swear on stage.
You feel dirty?
And I just said the SD word. Oh, whatever. I wasn't being dirty at all. I was trying to make fun of myself.
Should we talk about
However,
the SMS gateway?
Oh, no. Morse code gateways are later. What I did want to say is that I like how they're laughing.
Like they even know inside baseball.
What's great
at this
is
point.
it's even funnier if you know the joke, I promise. Talk to me afterwards, off camera. Yes, all those things are really, really cool, but without a reason, it's pointless, right? So, like, as a customer, if I'm not experiencing those pain points, if I don't need to, react in such a way, like everyone always holds up the Netflixes and the Facebooks and the Googles. They're like the biggest companies in the world at the top of their game.
Tim said edge case,
changing
and
things,
in those three companies, they aren't even edge case.
They're not edge case.
They're cutting edge.
Beyond.
They're like the future.
They're
man.
outside.
But their model was
And the future
architected
is
for
today.
that from the inception.
Right. So I heard a lot of Docker is to containers what VMware was to virtualization, what x86. And for coders, that may be the case because you're already building your applications and you're running them in frameworks and having to deal with scale out and all those architectures. But as an overall IT implementation, it's very much edge case. What we saw with x86 virtualization was any schmo can install a hypervisor, boot up Windows, and holy crap, I've got a VM. I'm now in IT. They build the things into the desktops now. Right?
So here's a real interesting question. We talk about containers running on VMware. And they want to say that containers run better on VMware.
Well, of course they do.
But they also say,
Naturally.
every container becomes just a single VM. So how are you leveraging any of the economies of scale, which is a container at that point, since the container should inherit properties from the base image and only contain the differences that it needs to run on. So all of a sudden Windows comes out with a container and I've got to install a full-blown Windows OS and then lay my application on top. How is that any different than a regular VM? It kind of negates the slimness and sexiness that is a Docker container right now.
Do you know that Windows is like working on a container technology?
Nano
like,
server, yeah.
Yes. So I'm not quite sure what you're getting at here.
But
we're
my
not
point
going to be
is-
dropping 2012 down and then
But-
putting
but
one
let's
Apple.
be
But my
realistic.
point is,
And
it's
then
still
calling it a
Windows. It's
container.
100. It's
Microsoft is-
140.
Microsoft is going to build their very nice nano server, and then we're going to have to install .NET 5 on it and bloat it out to here in order to do 100 lines of code that actually is a usable application.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm getting at. Is if you're going to keep making these, if you're going to treat a Docker app like a VM, how is it any different than a VM?
Say that one more time.
If you're going to keep treating a Docker container as a VM, running on a single VM, how is it any different than a VM?
Actually, that's the value prop.
So
No, seriously.
we're doing a lot of talk about this up here, but what have y'all heard the talk or anything really going around, any buzz around here other than in this DevOps section?
No.
I want to point that out because I've been on this roll of pointing out the negative this week of everything. But if that's what we're going to talk about, why is that buzz happening here and over there, but not all around? It would make more sense if that's where they're going, that they would want to project that even more, right?
This is what because you're, well, I guess I should be politically correct, but you're a whore for the camera, and this is where it is.
I am appalled,
Really?
and I'm really, yeah. Anyhow,
Okay,
so
so-
I won't continue. I won't
To
continue.
answer your question, when all this pre-DevOps and everything, back when EUC started to become a thing, and okay, you're making my point. EUC is a thing, so we would have people we'd love some of the things we were seeing going on in the hypervisor. I remember when fault tolerance was first demoed in Las Vegas. We pulled the power out and the wheel kept spinning, and that we talked about that for the rest of the conference. Yet VMware View was on maybe 1.5 or something like that, and there was probably a little knot of VDI guys that were going, all right, fault tolerance is cool, but you're a VDI. And we've been saying that for a while, those of us that are in EUC, but the people that aren't and explicitly have said, yes. So
And yes, that
It's
is
just
a
another example.
lifelike image of Damian Carlson throwing the table over.
Yes. Caught in the act.
In his
So-
best Terrence and Phillip voice.
What it really comes down to is VMware, and more importantly, the ESXi hypervisor is an enabling technology that all this other stuff wraps around. And so when you're saying, who cares about, or have we devalued the idea of the container if it's just another VM? The idea behind it is that it's such a tiny and fast-running, and call it svelte little VM, that it can, you've got things like VM Fork that can poop these things out by the billions, and you've got the orchestration and automation for it that you don't have to worry about whether I've got 10 or 10,000. That's where all of that power comes in, and the people that they may not be coders, but they still have to manage the environments, because you've said it's just a VM, and the Grok VM, oh, okay. I don't have to worry about what's inside it. No, it's just like you're a Windows guy and you're running a Linux VM. You don't grok what's inside it, you grok the VM. For some reason, mine, I can't see both CPUs. Well, I'm sorry. When it boots, does it see them? Yes. Your problem, not mine. So that's what we're talking about with containers, right? So as the VMware administrators that are enabling our coders to build this stuff, we see it as just a VM. And let's be fair, it's better than a database guy coming out saying, I need 75,000 cores and 73 terabytes plus blah, blah, blah. That's one VM. You're going to say no. But if the developers say that I need about...
Are you saying that that's actually going to happen? That developers are still not going to continue to say that, yes, I need 8 cores and 72 gigs of RAM just because I was told so?
No, because if they're writing it, there's no third-party vendor saying, this is what you need because we validated that in our architecture, and that's what's going to make it run well.
One would hope.
So, two things. One, the application, I don't know why we're just now talking about the apps, because we should have been talking about the apps years ago, right?
Well, I mean,
Server huggers is part of that
Right.
answer.
Number two, the role of the traditional VMware admin when it comes to the whole DevOps thing, I think it's changing, right? I think admins coming in today, it's expected that they have these basic VMware skills, Agreed? As far as knowing how to install ESXi, knowing how to add that host to vCenter, all those basic skill sets, I think, are kind of expected today because they can use things like Fusion or Workstation to kind of build those skill sets, right? Or go take the class, whatever it may be. But now it's learning beyond those skill sets, right? Learning how to automate, learning how to, code, whatever it may be.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of see that, that point of having a good foundational knowledge of things, because I know a lot of us have talked about, what it's like to become that next-gen engineer. You have to have a good foundational understanding of everything, but you still be, you have your forte, your expertise, and I think that plays to your point because I don't know if I would have used the word expected. I would see it as that's what we actually would like to see is that everyone has those.
Yeah, minimum viable candidate.
Exactly.
New
Seriously.
term.
It's not a new term.
And not at all.
I was laughing because that's something I do in my day job.
So James, do you see
I
the
do.
infrastructure engineer, network, storage, compute, dev in your answer then?
So I don't see it that explicitly. I see it as just infrastructure as a whole, and then having the understanding of the methodology of a developer, understanding the process and how to look at something. Because when you're looking at what you have to do to get from point A to point B, there are a ton of different steps in between to get there. Some that we forget about as non-developers. For me to go sit in this chair, well, one would typically say, well, you just get up and go to the chair. Well, no, that's not true. There's other steps involved. So having that idea and understanding that full-blown thought process and that level of detail is what is going to be relevant.
I think it's collaboration though, because that's an awful lot to expect somebody to know, and turn it on its side. Does that say that we are actually asking developers now to understand everything from an infrastructure side? Because if it's the other way,
not at all.
well, why shouldn't it be?
But they don't.
Because their heads would explode.
And so why wouldn't
No, no, no.
ours?
So what I'm saying is it doesn't necessarily have to be that way, but I think, in my opinion, if you're going to continue down the path that we're being shown, in our particular, vertical or whatever the hell you want to call it, in our particular industry, that's what's going to be relevant. If you're not going to
It's
follow that
horizontal if
path,
you're laying down
you're gonna fall kind of behind.
You're going to be stale, right?
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
going to be the guy who's basically right-clicking and deploying from template, right?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I'm not arguing your point. I'm just I'm kind of looking at it from a different angle of if we're being asked to understand and start learning developer skills, or developers being asked to learn infrastructure skills, and why isn't that being approached?
Two different mindsets.
We're not asking
We're
them.
not asking for infrastructure skills.
No,
Two
actually, skills
two
is what
different
we're asking
mindsets,
for. We're
but
not
that's
asking
right
for
to the point.
expertise.
We're both
that's
pretty.
what I
I
was
know.
gonna say.
You keep telling us that.
That's what I was leaning towards.
What was that?
So we talked about as virtualization guys, you were tapped through all the things that we have to know.
Yeah, the core
And
four.
let's be realistic. We don't know storage like the storage geek knows storage. Okay, we can't code like the hardcore coders can code. And when I said their heads would explode, I meant that euphemistically because I know some guys that if you ask
Heads
them
exploded?
if you ask them to code outside of what they know how to code, they get nervous, right? I had a friend who worked for a large, I won't go there, but all he does is write DLLs. He doesn't want to have to do anything with user experience. He flat out says, I suck at UX, but I can code the crap out of DLLs. And he sits in his cube and he writes DLLs all day. He says, give me your inputs, give me your outputs, and I will make it sing. If you asked him to do anything outside of that, because he's so specialized, he's out of a job.
So to that point, do you think that, I mean, I'm hearing things like we're going back to being the jack of all trades, master of none.
Some.
Okay,
That's
but-
what I advocate. Master of some.
Right. So as far as coding languages, right, what do you feel has become relevant? I mean, I'm hearing
So-
Python,
Python, if you're doing-
JavaScript.
Well, yeah, Python for
you know,
sure.
Years
Because
ago,
of
it used to
OpenBack.
be Ruby on Rails, right?
All right,
I
all
mean,
right. I'm
Web-
over
web
here and I'm
facing.
shaking my head no, and here's why. If you learn only a language, then you probably aren't really a coder. You're a language user, somebody who knows the basics, constructs of code, and if you can pseudocode out whatever, then going from one language to the next is just understanding the
It's just a matter of
namespace,
syntax.
what
Object-oriented,
new
right?
constructs.
Well,
Even
but the-
structured programming language. Once you know the core basics of how logic
It's
works,
just a syntax change.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm talking about. Understanding the way they think
Throw that where you
is
want it.
what you ultimately need to know. You don't have to know how to code. Hell, there's 40 million of us that could do it. You know, that can teach. You know, you can go online and learn the basics enough to get what you need done. You know, but having that understanding of how to read code.
Well, I think-
how to see how things are working.
you
How about
said it
being-
earlier, the processes, understanding
Right.
the processes.
Exactly.
How about being resourceful? All of us are here in the community lounge. I mean, we all know people who know. I mean, Larry.
opening acts. We were talking automation. The biggest reference was go read Luke D's blog, right?
If you're not learning, you're dying in this industry. We all know this. Absolutely. Find something that interests you. Find some corner case that just excites you outside of your day job and take a stab at it. I mean, it's...
So I hear you're going to be getting into the game of thimbles.
Splacious!
Flashes. Don't be a grump. If you guys haven't seen it, look up Thimble Kings on YouTube. It is awesome. Hilarious. Totally just weird and funny. So you guys are talking about that. When I think about like the master of trades or whatever the silly thing was, I tend to think about it in terms of a Venn diagram, right? So we've got like traditional virtualization IT and traditional app dev, right? You just need a little bit of an overlap to be able to get the job done, you know? I don't need to know.
Served you well so far.
Well, and a lot of that overlap looks like
I'm
Can we
turning
get
over.
somebody to escort him off stage now?
I'd like to say I've been a really good behavior.
You have, and we are very proud of you, Damien.
Next year, I'm not sitting anywhere near either one of you guys.
You keep saying that.
And he keeps coming back.
Not
This
by
time he got
choice.
in the middle. A mod in the middle.
New sitcom coming this fall, folks.
Cinnamon sandwich.
Okay, so next.
Yep. Now, next topic is the next topic. We were getting a high sign from the people behind the camera saying it's wrap up.
All right. So, okay. Well, that's going to wrap it up for us today for the vExpert Daily on the last day of VMworld 2015. Thank you for everything and the wonderful, playful banter back and forth.
And thank you who are here
But
in our live
that's
audience
it for
coming.
us. Thanks for watching.